Alrighty, and welcome back to another video. Got to do something quick. Alrighty. Anyway, the playoffs are here. It is postseason time. It's to the point where we maybe get to see who we want to win. And especially for tonight, or rather, whenever you get to watch it. Of course, probably whenever you do get to watch it, it's going to be tomorrow or sometime late this week. But I picked TCU to win. It's not a confident pick. Now, I want both of them to win, but, it's going to be a good game. It's not like when last year things were good. I picked Georgia to win last year because I didn't like Alabama. I still don't like Alabama. Anyway, I hope that we get to see a good game on Monday night. And maybe in the future time, I get to see whatever we want to see. Anyway, let's get into the NFL postseason right after this. So round one, the Chargers, they got to go into Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And both these teams have had a pretty interesting season. Up and down for both of these teams. If you really, really think about it, it was really up and down for both of these teams. And, of course, being up and down for both these teams are really up and down for, I guess who? The Jags. And, the Chargers, they had a pretty interesting season. They're expected to be very good. And, they're still very good. They lost on Sunday, in which we all thought that was going to be a pretty good game. And it was a pretty good game. Although we thought that the other team would be over 500, but obviously they weren't. But the Jags, they clinched the South. They get to go to the playoffs, right? And I'm going to do a two-parter to this. So I did somebody else and I did myself to see who would win. I'm going to go by myself. So this guy thought that the Chargers would win. And I know what you're saying. The Jags, they're underrated. But it's 50-50 going down the line for one of these teams to win. All right? So this was his pick. You know what? I'm just going to do it like this. So I'm going to do it like this was his pick and this was my pick. Okay? And you can tell I drew the line. I picked the Jags to win. But like I said, I'm going to go by my picks. So I picked the Jags to win. And because, look, they've been hot since recently. They've been hot since recently, too. And the thing is, they didn't have to play all their starters because it was a game that really did not matter. They already clinched the playoffs 2 weeks ago, really 3 weeks ago, and they don't have to play all their starters. The Jags, they played all their starters, and they had to this past Sunday. But, yeah, that's that. And so I think the Jags are going to win in a pretty close battle. That may be a low-key good game. And next up, we got the Ravens at the Bengals. The Ravens went into here this past Sunday and played the Bengals without Lamar Jackson, without Tyler Huntley. I don't know who they even had to start. They probably had a wide receiver to start. Rather that, they don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to play. Looking towards likely. Now, whether or not he plays or not, that's going to be the question. I'll draw the line here. The other guy, he picked the Bengals. All right? Now, guess what? I picked the Bengals. Not because I like them, but because, look, even with Lamar Jackson there, I still think that the Bengals hot enough that even in their first time that they played each other, the Bengals, they didn't really wear themselves at the point in that season. They found themselves, they beat the Chiefs, and they would have probably beaten the Bills had the Hamlin situation not happened. So, I think we are going to pick the Bengals to win here. And next up, we got the Dolphins at the Bills. Now, last time these two played, the Dolphins, they came up pretty close, and they won. So, drawing the line again, well, I already tell you this, that we both picked the same team. So, you don't even have to clarify clarify that. Because, look, Tua, he may not be the starter next year. And I'm saying this because of his status with the concussion protocol. Now, he may play. He may not. But even if, I think the Bills would have enough firepower to get past them. So, yeah, they win. Next up, we get the Cowboys at the Bucks. So, here's the thing. You know, the Cowboys are favorites probably in this one. But they left a lot of blood on that field in Washington. And they lost. They didn't score. Well, they scored a touchdown. It didn't look like a touchdown, but they scored a touchdown. A lot of teams missed extra point. So, yeah. I mean, all over the NFL, they missed extra point, a couple field goals. So this guy, he picked the Bucks to win. Notice the big check mark. And he said it's Tom Brady in the playoffs, right? You can't leave Tom Brady out of the playoffs as far as, you know, round one. The Bucks are on a first-round exit, you know. Now, the Cowboys are saying that they are, and I believe that they are not a first-round exit. What they did last year, they shouldn't have been first-round exits, but they came back into that game. They made it a game, and the 49ers almost soaked away what would have been a great win, and they won. We're talking about last year. They cannot be a first-round exit twice in a row, right? That's what you're thinking, right? But we don't know. We're going to know next Monday if they are or not. So, that's my pick. Of course, me going by my pick. That's how it's going to go. Next up, we got the Giants at the Vikings. Now, last time this game was very, very close. And the Giants actually almost pulled it off. With the momentum heading into, of course, the next game. The last game, which was probably, I think, the Commanders, which it was. They won that game outright. And so they looked to try to go into Minnesota, get a big win over Minnesota. Couldn't quite do it. And so now here we are looking for another big shot at it. And we're going to split it again. He picked the Vikings, and I can see why. Look, they're overdogs. Whether they're over in this one, the underdogs heading into a harsh territory like Minnesota, where Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley rested a week. Be rested. I think they're going to get the upset in this one. Because look, now, as we've seen the Giants in the previous times in the playoffs before, I think, their 2016 run, when they went in 2011 and in 2007, I think it was, they were lower seeds. They had 10 wins and less. And probably the last two seeds in the playoffs in that year. Look how far they got in the playoffs, man. They got to back-to-back Super Bowls each time that they made those playoff runs. And guess what? They won against the Patriots, which were very good at that time when Tom Brady was there. This is the same thing that's going to happen. So, I think the Giants are going to get the win. Now, this is unlikely to happen because the Giants are not who they were back in 2016 or 2011, 2007. They're not who they were back then. But they are who they are, and I think they're going to get the win. And next up was surprising wild card game, the Seahawks at the Niners. The Seahawks, they got the win. That's all they needed to do. And they became the biggest Lions fans in the world to try to get into the postseason. You know, a lot of people did not really expect them to be here because, look, I expected them at the beginning of the year to only get like 1 or 2 wins. Maybe even 3 or 4, possibly. But, nobody expected them to get as high as 9 wins. That's triple what I thought would happen. Same thing for the Giants. I mean, I only expected the same amount. Maybe even no wins. I don't even know. But, both guys stepped up. Geno Smith stepped up, and he's looking maybe to get another starting job next season. Now, here's the thing. They're on a 10-game winning streak. I don't think they're going to get stopped either. If you were to give me all the money in the world, right? Like if you were to bet me $1 million Seriously. If $1 million bucks, if the Seahawks will upset them, because they got swept by them last year. And I understand, even though the 49ers swept the Rams last year, look what happened. The Rams still went on to win the Super Bowl in the NFC Championship. Even without Jimmy Garoppolo, even with Brock Purdy, I think they're still going to get the win. And it will be harder fought because each time in the playoffs, a team has to have a hard fought victory. Well, except for the Eagles. But here's the thing. We both picked the Niners because we're not stupid. Now, a general Seahawks fan like Tayshawn would generally pick the Seahawks because he's a fan, I guess. But I'm sorry, this is where the season ends. Because I know you generally believe that you're not going to win. Next up, we got the Bengals at the Bills. I don't remember what we picked here because they reset it, so I'm going to go by what I picked now. So, the Bengals, they played them on Monday night at home. This is at Orchard Park, but they would have probably gotten the win had they finished that game. The Bills, they're on an emotional high rise right now, I guess you could say. And I don't think they're stopping either. I think the Bengals are going to have a lead at times in this one. It's going to be way back and forth. I think they're actually going to finish this one. And I doubt DeMar Hamlin's going to be in this one. I think he's going to sit out in the year, to be honest. And look, they still got the win even without DeMar Hamlin. So, with that being said, I think we're going to pick the Bills in this one. Now, don't be surprised if the Bengals do win in this one and move on to play either the Jags and the Chiefs. Which, by the way, is we're going to... I'll just move on to it, I guess, right? And the Jags and the Chiefs play. It's the 4 seed at the 1 seed. And, the Jags did not play bad when they played the Chiefs on Week 10, which was also a very good weekend of football, by the way. And the Jags, they got shut out 20-0 before halftime, and they finally got a score. And, the Jags, they were not a good team by then. But Trevor Lawrence has gotten hot at this time. And their defense is looking like the Bengals did last year, Now, more and more, I want to pick the Jags. But because I kind of do want to see the Bills and the Chiefs play another time in the playoffs, I think we both want them to win. Now, here's the thing. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to be so mad that this is going to happen. I'm going to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to get the win and divisional round Saturday and Sunday. You understand? Huh? No, you're not picking the Jags. I'm picking the Jags. I think that Trevor Lawrence knows what he needs to do. He didn't get many road wins during the season, but their defense can step up at times, and they're very underrated, just like the Bengals were last year. They're the underdogs in every single game that they play. And, Kansas City, I just don't like them. And that's the reason I'm not picking them. I'm picking the Jags because Trevor Lawrence, if he gets past the Chargers and they play the Chiefs the next Sunday or Saturday, then he's going to know what they need to do. Now, rather that being said, I would think that the Chargers would play the Chiefs anyway, so both teams would know what they need to do. It's the first time ever we're going to see a 9-8 team make the AFC Championship. Next up, we got the Cowboys at the Niners. The Cowboys and the Niners, I hope this thing happens for sure. The only thing that needs to happen is that the Giants need to upset the Vikings. And I hope it happens because I want to see these teams play again. And I was kind of hoping they play in the first round of the playoffs too. So, yeah. Now, here is the thing about this game. Because they played last year, right? We thought this was going to be a good old-fashioned rivalry. Because they played each other in the playoffs back in the 80s and the 90s, sometimes in the 70s. We actually get to see this game in the regular season next year because, I don't know, I saw like they were making like new schedules for next year, and they said, "Oh yeah, Niners and Cowboys are going to play." Maybe see another catch, another the catch version. Now, like I said, the Cowboys, if they beat the Bucs, which by the way, it could happen, and they're riding off with momentum, beating the GOAT, maybe retiring him and sending him back to his family. Well, maybe he'd get back with his family. Are going to go somewhere else. Now, the Niners, they come off a big momentum being their divisional rival, which, by the way, these two, when they get into the playoffs, they do not like each other. The Niners and the Seahawks, because, they played each other throughout the mid-2010s, and they beat up on each other because Richard Sherman said it himself. I'm going to pick the Niners to win this one because, look, the Cowboys, they said last year the all-time is 5-3, 5-2, and they made it 5-3. I think they'll make it 5-4 all-time in the playoffs. Now, of course, getting an old-fashioned rivalry. Maybe we'll get this in the NFC Championship next year because it's moving on up. But I think the Niners will move on to the NFC Championship for the third time in the last 4 seasons. Next up, we get the Giants at the Eagles. If you were to ask me that both the 1 seeds would go down in the same weekend for twice in a row, you'd be crazy, but you wouldn't be incredibly crazy because I think that both the 1 seeds in reality are going to make the NFC Championship. But rather than not that they get any further than that is going to be a great question. Now, of course, I do see the Eagles winning because, look, it's the Eagles. We want to see them play the Niners. Whenever they play the Niners, which is looking very likely that they're going to play in the championship in Lincoln Park. So, you know what? Guess what? The Eagles are going to win. The Giants, they made a great run. Nobody expected them to get here. I think Brian Daboll's going to be the coach of the year. I think he's going to win it outright because making the playoffs, if he wins the playoff game, then it's a bona fide way that he's going to be coach of the year. Now, like I said, although I did think that Zachary Taylor from the Bengals was going to be coach of the year. And the reason that Mike Vrabel, coach for the Titans, was coach of the year because they had a 12-win season. And they got the first round bye. Well, the Bengals were not expected to be good. So, honestly, we could see Doug Peterson making coach of the year. We could see, I doubt Pete Carroll being coach of the year. I don't even know. What other team is it? Maybe Mike McDaniel could be coach of the year. I don't even know. Dan Campbell could be coach of the year. Anybody could be coach of the year. Mike Tomlin could be coach of the year. There's a lot of people in contention for coach of the year. I'll tell you that much. But I think that the Eagles will win this one outright. It's going to be much closer than it was the past 2 meetings here. I think they're going to have a good old-fashioned rivalry coming up in the next coming years. So, yeah. And now welcome to Championship Sunday. It's the Jags at the Bills. Now, if the Jags, obviously, I don't think they're going to win against the Chargers or even the Chiefs. It's going to be something. With that, the Bills will be hosting a playoff game and the AFC Championship and a possible way to get into the Super Bowl for the first time since the early mid-90s. Now, the Jags, they made a great run. The last time they were in the AFC Championship, they played the Juggernaut Patriots, which they eventually, I think, lost. But yeah, that's that. And I think either way, the Jags would have lost in the Super Bowl to the Eagles anyway. So, basically, with that being said, yeah, I think that the Bills will get into the Super Bowl, and they made themselves playoff bound. Super Bowl bound, rather. Now, the last time that the Jags were in the AFC Championship, like I said, they played the Patriots. They led 20-10 at one time. They almost made it all the way. Sadly, they had a little choke, but they fought hard to even get there. And they haven't been back since. Now they got a chance, not a good chance, but a chance to get back there, even to the Super Bowl. But yeah, that's that. So the Bills are going to win, maybe even in a home if crazy things happen in Championship Sunday. And next up, what could be a collision course is the Niners at the Eagles. And this one would be a pretty good one. I think this one is the most likely to happen. We got to wait 3 weekends for it, though. So, maybe 3 weekends for it. Hopefully 3 weekends. I don't think the Seahawks will win against the Niners. I don't think either the Bucs or the Cowboys would win against them. Or the Giants, however. I mean, I just don't see it happening. Now, it is what it is. That's all I'm going to say. It is what it is. Now, here's the thing. That if the Bucs would win if they would win against the Cowboys and then the Niners would win, the Niners would play the Bucs again in the playoffs, and they absolutely destroyed them, which is another likely thing to happen. And that's just how it goes. So, easy route. Same thing for the Eagles. They got another easy route. And it all comes down to this. Both defenses are going to play good. Both offenses are going to play good. I think Brock Purdy is going to have a time with this. Now, the Eagles got one of the best defenses in the world that we've ever seen. Hassan Reddick has a top 5 sack record for the Eagles. Nick Bosa has the highest, though. So, honestly, hooray for them, right? Now, I do think that the Niners would win this one. I'm actually going to pick the Eagles this time. I've been picking the Niners for all day because people have been asking me for some reason. But I'm actually going to pick the Eagles for this one. I think both the Bills and the Eagles are on a collision course for the Super Bowl. I think it now. Niners, next year is your year. You've got to have a hard schedule, though, I'll say that much. And next up is Super Bowl Sunday, welcoming the AFC champions, the Buffalo Bills, who have made a great season, going 13-3. I mean, they, with a canceled game. And then the other team, the 14-3, with no canceled games, the NFC champion, in the Philadelphia Eagles. Both teams have had a pretty respectful season. Eagles, maybe we expect to be good. I know some people probably didn't expect them to be good. Other people expected them to be good. They went 8-0, and they finally lost a game. Then they went on another run, winning about 5 straight games. And then they went on a 2-game losing streak, but they finally won to get the 1 seed. The Bills have had a pretty good season up until week 17, and then momentum died down. But they went up on a pretty good run to even get here. Both teams have got a pretty good offense and defense with Jalen Hurts in the MVP conversation, but Patrick Mahomes winning. I mean, I think we all think Patrick Mahomes is going to win it. I hope he doesn't. But to be honest, it's looking more and more likely. I'll probably hear that side. I do. They want to win for Hamlin. And if Hamlin hadn't got released from the hospital, I would say that the Bills would win it. And it'd be like that, remember the Titans moment where he's just sitting in the hospital and just raising his arms yay. That's what I think it would be like. But I'm still going to pick the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I think it's going to happen. I mean, look at that, fellas. It's been a year. Nobody expected this to happen for a lot of reasons. It's been a pretty crazy year with teams with very good upsets of the year that we didn't think were going to happen for 5. to finish out the regular season, right? We had the Eagles went 14-3. We expected them to be at least halfway decent to good, but not this good. We expected the Giants to be terrible. They were not terrible. We expected the Seahawks to be terrible. They were not terrible. They made the playoffs, but they're going to be a first-round exit. We expected the Vikings to be the Vikings, but we thought they were going to be good. And I think they went over the top a bit, but they still finished out pretty good. We expected the Bengals to be halfway decent. They were dominant. We expected the Jets to be terrible. They were good. A lot of things happened this season. Now, the Jets, they're not necessarily good. They just need a quarterback. But a lot of things have happened this season. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll be back about Thursday or Friday to give my first round predictions of the playoffs, and then I'll move on from there. But anyway, my full pick is the Bills to win. So, yeah. Anyway, see you back on Thursday or Friday.